Imagine that tomorrow, a company doubles the price of its most popular product. No new features, no larger package, no special promotion, just a higher price. What happens next? Do customers complain, but continue buying? Do they immediately switch to a competitor? Or do they realize they never needed the product in the first place? That one reaction can reveal more about a business than 100 pages of stock market forecasts. Warren Buffett does not literally use only one question before every investment, but one of the fastest ways to understand his philosophy is to ask, can this company raise its prices without losing its customers? Because when the answer is yes, you may be looking at something rare. A business with pricing power, customer loyalty, and an economic moat that competitors cannot easily cross. But there is a trap. Some companies appear to have pricing power when they are actually benefiting from shortages, inflation, or temporary hype. By the end of this video, you will have a 5-part Buffett-style test for separating a truly exceptional business from a temporarily popular stock. And the 4th test is where many famous companies fail. Buffett has repeatedly described the qualities Berkshire seeks in a business. The company should be understandable. It should possess favorable long-term economics. It should have capable and trustworthy management, and it must be available at a sensible price. Berkshire's published acquisition criteria also emphasized consistent earning power, strong returns on equity with little or no debt, an existing management team, and a simple business model. Notice what is missing. There is no requirement for a revolutionary invention, no prediction about next quarter's stock price, no complicated trading indicator, no promise that artificial intelligence will transform everything 5 years from now. Buffett begins with the business. How does it make money? Why do customers choose it? What stops competitors from taking those customers? How much capital does it require? And what price must an investor pay for those economics? Pricing power is useful because it compresses several of those questions into one customer decision. The first test is simple. When the company raises prices, what happens to demand? A weak business raises prices and loses customers. A commodity business raises prices only when every competitor does the same. A powerful business can charge more while customers continue returning voluntarily. But do not mistake every price increase for pricing power. A company may raise prices because raw materials became more expensive. Customers may tolerate it temporarily because competing products are unavailable. Or reported revenue may increase while the company quietly sells fewer units. Look for 3 pieces of evidence. First, are customers still buying similar quantities? Second, are profit margins holding or improving? Third, can the company repeat the increase without relying on shortages or promotional tricks? True pricing power means the customer values the product more than the additional money being charged. That value might come from trust, convenience, habit, status, reliability, or the difficulty of switching to something else. The important part is that the customer, not management's presentation, is proving the strength of the business. Buffett's experience with See's Candies became one of Berkshire's clearest lessons in pricing power. Berkshire acquired See's through blue-chip stamps in 1972. In Berkshire's 2007 annual report, Buffett explained that See's had grown only modestly in physical volume, but its durable brand allowed the business to produce extraordinary financial results while requiring relatively little additional capital. The company had been purchased for $25 million. By 2007, it was producing $82 million in annual pre-tax profit while requiring only about $40 million of capital to operate. Buffett wrote that only $32 million of additional capital had been needed since the acquisition, while cumulative pre-tax earnings reached approximately $1.35 billion. That is the important distinction. A business does not need explosive unit growth when it can keep its customers, gradually raise prices, require little additional capital, and send the resulting cash back to its owners. Investors often chase the company opening the most locations. Buffett asks which company creates the most additional cash without constantly demanding more money from shareholders. The second test asks whether the customer relationship is a transaction or a habit. A one-time purchase may create impressive revenue. A repeated habit creates predictable economics. Ask, how often does the customer return? Does the product solve a frequent problem? Does switching create inconvenience, uncertainty, or social cost? Would the customer actively search for this product if it disappeared from the nearest store? A strong brand is not simply a famous logo. It is a decision the customer no longer needs to reconsider. The customer enters the store already knowing what to buy. That reduces the company's need to repeatedly win the same customer through discounts and advertising. A business becomes especially powerful when customers believe the cheaper alternative carries a hidden risk. That risk might involve reliability, taste, security, compatibility, reputation, or wasting time learning a replacement. The strongest companies do not merely sell products, they occupy a small protected space inside the customer's routine. Here is the midpoint trap. A company may look protected while its moat is actually temporary. Heavy discounts can create fake loyalty. A shortage can create fake pricing power. A viral trend can create fake repeat demand. A charismatic founder can create the appearance of a great business when the entire company depends on one person. Buffett warned that a truly great business should possess an enduring moat protecting its returns on capital. He identified advantages such as being the lowest cost producer or owning a powerful worldwide brand. He also warned that a moat requiring constant rebuilding may not be a durable moat at all. And if the company needs a superstar manager just to remain successful, the underlying business may not be as strong as it appears. BerkshireHathaway.com. Use what I call the absence test. Remove the founder. Remove the viral advertising. Remove the discounts. Remove the temporary shortage. Remove the excitement surrounding the stock. Would customers still choose the product? Would the business still earn attractive returns? If the answer changes dramatically, you may not be looking at a moat. You may be looking at a temporary bridge. The third test asks what the company must spend to keep growing. Consider two businesses. Both increase revenue by 10%. The first must build new factories, purchase expensive machinery, hold more inventory, and borrow heavily. The second serves more customers using nearly the same infrastructure. Their revenue growth may look identical. Their economic value is not. Buffett described truly great businesses as those capable of earning high returns on tangible capital. Berkshire's acquisition criteria specifically favored companies earning strong returns on equity while using little or no debt. Watch these numbers: return on invested capital, capital expenditures, free cash flow, inventory growth, receivables, and total debt. If revenue increases but free cash flow never follows, ask where the money is going. If every new dollar of revenue requires another dollar of investment, growth may enrich customers and employees without creating much value for shareholders. The dream business does not merely grow. It converts growth into excess cash. This is the fourth test, and the one that eliminates many exciting stocks. Ignore the headline profit for a moment. Ask how much cash could actually be removed from the business without damaging its competitive position. Start with operating cash flow. Subtract the capital spending required to maintain the existing business. Then consider debt payments, working capital demands, and recurring stock compensation. What remains is much closer to the cash that belongs economically to the owners. Now compare that figure over several years. Is it stable? Is it growing? Does the business convert most of its reported profit into cash? Or does management constantly explain why cash will arrive sometime in the future? Also check the share count. A company can report rising total earnings while repeatedly issuing new shares. If earnings rise 10%, but the share count also rises 10%, the individual shareholder may have gained almost nothing. Buffett's preference for consistent earning power and little debt is not conservative for the sake of being conservative. It reduces the number of things that must go right. The fifth test is management. But do not evaluate management primarily through interviews. Evaluate the decisions. When the company earns $1, what happens to it? Management can reinvest it in the core business, acquire another company, reduce debt, repurchase shares, pay a dividend, or waste it. A strong management team understands where each dollar will produce the highest long-term return. A weak management team expands simply to appear larger. Watch for repeated expensive acquisitions, constant restructuring, compensation disconnected from shareholder results, promotional forecasts that are quietly abandoned, and buybacks completed when the stock is expensive, followed by new share issuance when the price is low. Buffett's published framework combines favorable economics with able and trustworthy management. A moat protects the company from outside competitors. Good capital allocation protects shareholders from mistakes inside the company. BerkshireHathaway.com. Now we reach the final condition. The business may pass every test. Customers stay loyal after price increases. The moat appears durable. Returns on capital are excellent. Debt is manageable. Cash flow is strong. Management behaves rationally. You can still lose money by paying too much. Buffett's framework has always included a sensible price. That means estimating the cash the business might reasonably generate in the future, and refusing to rely on a perfect scenario. Build 3 cases: a conservative case, a normal case, and an optimistic case. If today's stock price only makes sense under the optimistic case, the market may already be charging you for success that has not happened. The goal is not to purchase the greatest company at any price. It is to purchase a durable stream of future cash at a price that leaves room for mistakes. A moat protects the business. A margin of safety protects the investor. Here is the complete test. Question 1. Can the company raise prices without losing meaningful demand? Question 2. Is the customer relationship a repeatable habit rather than a temporary trend? Question 3. Can the company grow without continuously consuming huge amounts of new capital? Question 4. Do reported earnings turn into real cash for each shareholder? Question 5. Does management allocate that cash rationally? And is the current stock price sensible? You should not buy a stock after 5 minutes of research. But these 5 questions can tell you whether the company deserves another 5 hours. Here is your challenge. Think of one product or service you personally use. Now imagine its price increases by 20% tomorrow. Would you continue buying it? If yes, write down why. Convenience, trust, habit, status, switching costs, or a lack of credible alternatives. Then research the company behind it. Check whether demand has survived previous price increases. Examine its profit margins, debt, cash flow, capital spending, share count, and valuation. You are not looking for a product you love. You are looking for evidence that millions of customers make the same decision, and that shareholders benefit from it. Comment with one product category you would continue buying after a 20% price increase. Do not name the stock yet. Explain the customer behavior. I will select the strongest examples and test their companies using this exact Buffett framework in a follow-up video.